goes into our next part, unless somebody else want to add on to that. Our next part of that conversation is, do we feel comfortable reaching out to friends and families about our feelings as men? And
I don't think we have a space for that, really.
yeah,
Right? I'm not saying nobody does, but I just don't think. I mean, take what most Black folks think about therapy, right? Not regarded very well. I think at first maybe that came from a place of, you couldn't really find, and you probably still today, you can't find a whole lot of people who look like you and really create a space where you feel comfortable
yeah,
to share that experience. But no, I mean, I think we all heard it with some form or another of be tough, be strong.
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah. So I don't think as a community we are very comfortable with that. I mean, someone who I love personally, and I watch their stuff, but I just think, oh my God, why do they share so much? Will and Jada, right?
hmm.
Like they crack me up. They're fun. They're very open people. But in the back of my head, I'm just like, why are they spilling so much of their stuff? You know. But that's what it looks like, right? Maybe not as far as that, right? Like I don't want to share all my business, right? But you gotta have some place to vent to, and I don't know if we do that very well.
Yeah. What do you say, Dante?
Yeah, I think Eric said it perfectly. I would say personally for me, no, I don't do a good job of going to, I guess, family or friends, maybe a couple people here and there. But I think that's just as far as the way that was brought up. My dad, my cousins, it was always be tough. What you crying for? Um, you supposed to be a man, like those kind of things. So, like I remember one time I remember Joe, my wife Joe, for you guys that don't know, she got on me one time because we came home to visit, and we were actually at her grandmother's house, and my dad came to see me, and we were getting ready to leave, so he came to see me, and it was probably my maybe like second or third time maybe seeing my dad ever cry in my life. And I'm sitting here like, man, what you crying for? I say, what you a punk? Like, and Joe was looking at me like, what? What do you mean? I was like,
You said that to him?
man, like growing up, huh?
You said that to your dad?
Yeah, I said that. I said, man, what you crying for? You a punk? Because that's how he raised me.
Yeah.
It was always like, you better not cry. You better go you better go do this, and so like me seeing that, I was just like, I was taken back because I'm like, and everybody knows that uh, not crying doesn't make you a man, and now even more so, I wish that I would cry more, and but I don't, but that was my mindset growing up. It was like, you a man, so you don't cry. Like you a boy. Like that's stuff that girls do. You know, um, Stop whining. Don't be a sissy. So like those are the things that I heard and that I saw. So for me, and then also too, like we really didn't talk about our feelings that much. It was like, you either happy or you upset. It's like no in between. So I really never had the outlet that I did that. So I think like football for me was like my biggest outlet. So if I was frustrated, I was upset, I'm just gonna go out there and hit somebody, and I relieve my stress, and that's how I handle, me not talking or uh, talking to people about my feelings. But I do believe that as men, we don't do that enough, and we should. And it's definitely a struggle even to this day. Like just having conversations with my wife, you know, about certain things, because I don't know how to fully express myself when I'm talking or doing certain things. So yeah, I definitely think that that we should definitely be able to do that. And I do think that as the Black community, as far as having therapists and, you know, being able to talk to somebody that can help you through certain things, I think that's good. And I think that's also can show, I think that also will help with a lot of, you know, other things that we do to try to cope with the issues that we're dealing with and we don't know how to handle it. You know, and I think that's why you have a lot of people that drink. That's why you have a lot of people that smoke. That's why you have a lot of people that do a lot of stuff that they do. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
That's good. It's good. That's a familiar terminology, and for men, just like Eric and Dante was saying, grow up. All you know is be a man. Figure the rest of it out. Don't cry. Don't let nobody see you cry. And, you know, then when we see somebody as a man crying, you take a step back and like, okay, what's wrong with him? You know, and I think now that I'm older, I think it's the craziest thing in the world that we think emotions make you weak. You know, because I would think that it will make you more human than anything. You know, make you stand out away from the animals or from, you know, robots and stuff like that, because humans have emotions and we should be able to express them. But society taught us to do things differently. And not only society, our families, you know, our families did what they had to do. I mean, they knew that there was something in front of them. They had the obstacle they had to overcome. They didn't have time to address those feelings. Or if they didn't have the resources to, you know, to get that help. So they put it away. They just pushed it to the side and kept going. And did that help? Some people probably pushed them to their goals, but they still had those issues later on. You know, they were searching for something else, you know, and drugs and alcohol and things like that became their vices to cope with that. Like I said, on the last thing, I suffered from depression. Didn't even know it because throughout my life, I was just sad for no reason in my mindset. No one knew that because I would be happy and smiling in front of everybody else. But when I'm by myself, I was always sad. And I didn't realize until I started studying psychology. Now, keep in mind, this is years later. So keep in mind this, I bypassed knowing all of this, that I was depressed, until I was an adult from studying it, not even being helped. So no one knew all these times my mindset. And I faked it till I made it, you know? So now fast forward now, I don't hide those emotions, you know, like I have Angela to bounce some, you know, ideas and thoughts and feelings and all that off of. But I still don't find myself being able to call family and tell them that same stuff. You know, even with my mom, I couldn't call her and say, hey, I'm feeling sad, or I feel, you know, and, you know, for a lot of people that know us, this past year, we've been through a lot as a family. So it's hard not having a soundboard or someone that you feel like you can say, hey, this is how I feel, you know, and have someone to not judge you on that. You know, you still feel like at the end of the day, you still quote unquote man, you know. But I'm hoping that at least through what we're talking about, that people start realizing that the definition of a man has been obscure and just toxic for so long that we need to get out of it. We need to redefine and realize that men have feelings, men have viewpoints that may not mesh up with how society wants it to be, but that's okay. We're okay with that because society doesn't dictate who men are, and it shouldn't. You know, you should be who you are. And I think that's the hardest part, is feeling accepted for just having those feelings, you know. If I don't feel accepted, I'm definitely going to deny those feelings, at least in front of somebody, you know. and that's like anything. So I think that's our biggest thing with family. You know, you bring something to them and they don't have that mindset. What are you going to do? Are you going to tell them again? No, you're not going to trust them again to say anything. So, and I think that's why I said before, I have to start affecting my circle first, so I can have a healthier circle. So when I'm addressing these traumas and these issues that are going on in the world, I'll have a network of people or a network that's supportive when I'm feeling down or something like that. And that way I'm not feeling like I'm lost in between these situations.
Yeah. You said something that really connected with me just now. And it's like, it's this whole feeling of like, even as a man, as a Black person, like you always have to like hide yourself in some degree. You disagree with a thing at work, don't show that, right? Like you feel you can never just kind of like be yourself, or at least that's what you're taught anyway,
Yeah.
right? I can tell you personally, I feel like I'm going through a moment right now where I don't care anymore. Like it's just I'm not going to achieve what I want to achieve in life if, you know, I'm in a situation and I'm like, I want to say this, or I want to share that, and then I don't, and you're looking in the rear view saying, oh, I regret not saying something, I regret not speaking up. And for me personally, that might make a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but this is what it looks like, you know, and everybody's got to get used to that, right?
Yeah.
This is what it's like to see an honest Black person every single day. And it means when you say something that's inappropriate, rude, or maybe you're not thinking because no one's ever challenged you like that before, right? Well, now I'm going to challenge you, you know? So I try to find ways to be courageous, you know. At work recently, they made some announcements about like, you know, social and racial equality. And one of the things that they did is said, like, we're going to double Black leadership this year at this level and up to that level. And then they said, we're going to do it again in 2021. And my finance organization, it's got like 1,000 people in it. And they have this giant group chat. And everybody was like, so there's one very specific meeting where they're going to talk exclusively about this. And before the meeting, everyone's like, get on, make sure you watch it. This is so important. This is so important. And then when it's done, nobody says anything. No one says anything at all. Like, I'm like, okay, so you had 15, 20 people before saying, watch, watch, watch. Now they came on here and they said some things and no one has anything to say. Nah, I can't let that sit. So I definitely stirred the pot, and I definitely went in there and said, this is what people are expecting. This is what people need. This is like, it's not, you know, hey, so sad, we're with you, we stand with you. It's actionable, and they're doing something, and this is courageous, and they should be applauded for doing this, you know? And, you know, that gave some other people that gave some other people the space to kind of step up and get into the conversation. But at the end of the day, I just think there's too many people being quiet about what they feel across the board. You know, like we have this habit, you know, back of the bus, right? When Donald Trump and his casinos, back of the house, right? Like you always try to shrink your visibility as a Black person in this country because attention is not a good thing for you, right? And now I'm like, you know what? Forget that, man. Like, you just got to deal with it. You just got to deal with it. I got my 2 cents, and you're going to hear my 2 cents, and you can show me the way out if you don't like it, you know? But I feel like we just got to kind of step into those spaces and I think that's just across the board, and really just reflecting who you are and sharing that with people.
That's exact. Yeah, that's exact. Especially in the workplace, our spaces are very limited in how we communicate and how we interact with working, which is why I don't work in those spaces anymore, because I couldn't handle that censorship. you know.
You had a tough environment. You had a tough environment, though.
Yeah. So that censorship was hard, you know. But what I'm realizing also is this, even with that censorship, I think right now we have the unique opportunity to be us, wholly us, and we'll have more acceptance than we've had in a while. Because right now we have a lot of allies that we probably, if even if we did have them before, they didn't show up like they did now, because they're, and you know, I don't know what the plan is or what's going on in the world, but it seems like they're directing their viewpoints towards strengthening how people view us as Black people. But as Black men, we definitely have a bigger responsibility for our families, friends, and our culture and community, because for so long they've took us out of the formula, out of the equation, you know, through various things. And I'm not going to go into all that. We just know that they took us out of the equation. But as you see here, we have 5 of us who are here who are standing strong. And I know there's 5 more and 5 more and 5 more, you know, and I think at that point, we have to make leaps towards correcting some of the, let me not say correcting, overriding some of the issues that were put in our way or put in our plates, that we can't no longer say this is okay or this is how it was. We got to say this is the new norm. You accept it or don't, this is what it's going to be. And treat our people and our community, and not talking about just Black people, but just people in general, in the fashion that we want to be treated. And when we do that, I think it'll open up other doors for us to be able to express ourselves as wholly as we can, as wholeheartedly as we want to be. I think right now we're still trying to pander behind, you know, what society says we should be and what we want to be, or what we should accept, you know, on what we feel oppressed by and what we shouldn't accept, you know. So it's like that confusion state. And under that, we're still trying to figure out how can we address all these issues, say how we feel, also remove all the toxic issues. And, you know, there's like 1,000 things we're trying to do all at once, and we need to focus on the one thing that's most important, which is ourselves internally, and our mental health is that biggest issue. Because if we're not strengthening ourselves, how are we going to do it for anybody else? You know. What about you?
Yeah, Byron, I agree. I was going to say, Byron, I agree. I think,
okay.
You know, we all got to take care of ourselves and, you know, try to figure out, we can't be too proud. We can't be, we got to be mindful. I think a lot of African-American Black men carry a lot on their shoulders. And sometimes it's too much to handle at a moment. But I think that's where we got to be strong and try to, because again, you know, you guys we've all alluded to the issues of where our status is in the world, or I shouldn't say in the world, in America. And, you know, that plays a part in it. Our lives are difficult as it is, and you're fighting an uphill battle. So we need to be as primed and ready as we can be. And if that means that we need to get a little bit of help, then so be it. But I think that's where we individually have to take on that task to say, I'm gonna be better, I'm gonna get better, and I'm gonna do better.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Fabe, you got anything you want to add to it before I go to the next?
Yeah, I want to add that I do think as well that people need to reach out and speak to someone, either in regards to their mental health or anything. There's great benefit in reaching out and using others to lean on. From personal experience, about 2 weeks ago, I had a situation go on, and you know, I got down and went into a dark place, and you know, I had to talk to Dante and everything, and or I hadn't talked to Dante for like 3 days. And so I think if I had initially just reached out and kind of got what was going on and got it off my chest, his experiences could have helped me a lot sooner and kept me from going as deep as I did. So I think there's great value in having people that you can talk to and reach out to. So even if it doesn't have to be a therapist, people. So it's either family, friends, or there's like Facebook groups where you can find common people that have common interest. I know there's an app called Meetup where you can find people that have common interests.
Yeah.
So get out and be around people that have these common interests and likes and things or hobbies that you have, so that you can have someone that you can resonate with and get close with, so you can open up if you are holding on to things, because it ain't good.
Yeah.
It ain't good at all.
Yeah.
We are social creatures, man. Isolation doesn't bring anything positive.
Yep. Yep. So with that transition, and we were talking about the strategies, how you were talking about Fabe, that is the next segment part of it. And it's what are some strategies we can use to cope with day-to-day stressors such as work, family, and grief. I mean, grief is a big thing too. So, and I'll just say for me, it's always been the worst thing for me was always I addressed everything the wrong way. Isolation. I would distance myself from family, friends, to stay to myself. And the mind is terrible when it's just out there alone and not stimulated. It just goes off on its own tangent, and it pulls you in deep and dark holes. And I realized that anytime I had deep depression was because I put myself in a situation where I isolated myself. I didn't continually, expose myself to others, but I also wasn't letting them in anyways. But at least if I was exposing myself to other people, I was getting an outlet, with COVID, it has affected a lot of people if you're single and you don't have someone in your house, you're by yourself. And if the law or the regulation or whatever it is that's telling you to stay in the house and you can't go anywhere, all you can do is talk to somebody on the phone or text them or Facebook, and all you're seeing is just negative images of everything, you become depressed and you may not know it. And your family's not going to know it because they don't see you, they don't talk to you, they may just think that you're just working hard or just busy. And then next thing you know, you're in this hole and you can't get out. So I encourage anybody to find outlets that you enjoy, such as, anything, walking. Exercise is a way to get rid of a lot of things. I don't do it. I will be, but I don't do it. Full gym downstairs, but just don't use it. But I play video games. That's my thing. Or I watch video games. I watch people playing video games, which is the weirdest thing to me, but I've learned that that's my highlight. And that removes me from reality, though. That removes me for that moment that, okay, there's some enjoyable parts of life right now, and whether that's a false sense of hope that I'm giving myself, it's enough to get my mind out of that hole for the moment, and I can work on some other things, because I think it takes steps. We can't assume that mental health, addressing your mental health is a one-time thing. It has to be a constant thing. It has to be it may be an everyday thing. It may be the everyday thing for the rest of your life. You have to be able to address it, and you have to be okay with that. And a lot of people think that, just like communication, they think, oh, I've learned my communication. But no, it's something that you're always trying to learn. It's something that you're always trying to better or get better at. And I think coping mechanisms or ways of coping strategies should be tested. Test some. Don't just assume that one works, because eventually it'll stop working. And then you got to find something else. So find a bunch of different things and mingle with it, That's my point of view as far as for being able to handle those things, because there's no one way that can help you get through any stress. You know, there may be 30 different ways. So if there's 30 different ways, have them on deck, have them available.
You know, for me, Byron, I don't cope very well. I hate change. Um, Definitely, you know, when you said grief, processing grief, that gave me anxiety. You just saying it. I don't deal with things like that very well. And for me, it's growing things, right? Like, because it always gives me a sense of purpose, and you know, there's something happening. So it helps me flex my muscle of patience. And in the time when I'm, you know, working on a plan or I'm out in the garden, you know, you find clarity, you know? So for me, that's always just been like a go-to, like get outside, get in the garden, grow something, you know, being out in nature instead of being, you know, closeted, right?
Mhm.
Do
And
you know why you find clarity there?
are you asking me or are you about to tell me?
I'm asking you if you
Oh,
know why, but I can tell you too.
for me personally, it's there's two pieces to it. One is I find it kind of freeing because I don't feel like there's no one around, right? So there's no pressure, and with everything kind of removed, I get this time to just really just work over stuff, you know. Like these epiphanies will just kind of come to me in the silence, right?
Yep.
And I mean, the biggest thing that keeps coming to mind, especially during times like this, is there's no wrong answer when you're taking care of yourself.
That
Yeah,
personal development.
yeah. It's just that's what when I'm out in the garden, I'm really focused on me.
And
And
your brain isn't distracted. That's the main thing. Your brain isn't distracted by anything else. So it's allowed to just flow
yeah,
with all that stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, that's good. Because that is where anything that you want to do, that is probably where you'll do your best thinking about it.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's been my go-to. Jogging sometimes, but I hate it. You know, I go in cycles, but yeah, that's what works for me.
What about you, Fabe? What works for you?
um, it's crazy to think that with all of this negative and bad stuff going on, that for me, I've had incredible opportunity this year. Um, I don't know how it's, I'm not trying to put this in a bad way, but it's like without COVID, there's probably a lot of things in my personal growth that I probably wouldn't have been able to do, because being able to work from home and then work not being as crazy, because pre-COVID, I was probably working maybe 50, 55 hours a week pre-COVID. So constant overtime and stuff like that. So I just had the lawn business and stuff like that. So being able, like, workload at work going down, being forced to work at home, which now allowed me sometimes during work to focus on my other personal goals that I wanted to do. It allowed for tremendous growth for me this year, and I just see so many opportunities. So, like, I set out, my immediate thought when all this was going home, not immediate, when we had to go home, so like when it got real in April with COVID, my immediate thought was, okay, this is going on, it's crazy, I want to come out of this better. How do I come out of this situation better than what I was going into it? How do I use these opportunities that I have to get better? So that's where I've been on the personal development. And I found within myself, I never realized this, I came to this epiphany that I enjoy learning. I absolutely enjoy it. If like I'm not learning something, it feels like a boring day. So I'm constantly on podcasts, constantly on YouTube. You know, I feel I've gotten better with planning stuff. Like each business that I've grown, I've gotten better about how I do it and how I run it. Like this podcast, I have stuff like I got spreadsheets and this and that and da 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 da. Like, man, have I gotten so laser focused that it's insane. And so that's what I preach to anybody right now is to get personal development, invest in yourself. You invest in yourself and you will see so much success and you will put yourself in a better situation for you and your family.
Yeah. 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 So it seems like we all have that same circle of ideas, which circles back to our individual selves to overcome the negativities, the traumas of society, but also to excel in this kind of negative world. And we all have different careers and businesses that we're doing. And I think we're all addressing it according to that approach. I mean, I know I am. I mean, prior to COVID, I wasn't as focused. I knew I had business, things, and I was going to just launch it, how I felt was necessary for that time. But when COVID hit, it was time to focus it more and take very strategic steps towards how I do things. And that's good because that allowed me to not spend as much money, for one, but it also allowed me to focus only on the things that were going to be profitable. And not necessarily being profitable in money, but profitable in my own life, not wasting energy on things that didn't matter, So I think it's been a blessing. I know it's been affecting a lot of people negatively, and not saying it didn't affect me negatively or anything like that, but I'm taking some of that good that came out of it and making sure I multiply it. I don't want to come out of this situation next year or whatever happens for next year and not have any lesson learned out of it. Just like you said, Faye, learning something from it. I'm learning how to do business, remotely more, not having to, I don't have to go and do closings, which is great. I don't have to be there because, at a closing yesterday in Northport. Northport is an hour and a half away from me. So I didn't have to drive there, That's a good thing about COVID. But the bad thing is that it makes you learn yourself. And I think that's the biggest, the vulnerability of that, of learning that you have insecurities, weaknesses, and stuff like that you may have just overlooked because you didn't address them before. You just like, okay, I can do this, I can do that, but I'm not even going to address these weaknesses. I'm just going to go past them. And now I have to address them. Like, okay, I hated phone work. I like talking to people straight up, So now I'm focusing more on phone work, Well, it's not as bad as I thought. But before, when I had another option, what did I do? I chose to go away from it. Now it's like, I don't have another option. So learn it, do it, I can close a deal now on the phone better than I did years. And I'm talking about years in the business, and I just never thought about it because I can go to somebody's, face to face and do a better job, but now it's, I'm fine tuning the skills that I avoided before, and, I give COVID credit for that, and I know Dante got some, he's getting some credit for that too. He's going to be building some big things with his business through this COVID environment, right?
I just hope he remembers us, Byron, when he hits the big time.
I know, Pastor Parker.
I'll just ask for just $20, Dante. Just 20. That's it.
$20 and a Coke.
I don't even want to go.
Not cocaine, Coke.
Whoa.
Coca-Cola. I just want to make sure because it's 2020.
I definitely have a Coke story, but this is not the place or time for it.
Yeah. Now, Fabe, I know you had a topic you wanted to address. I don't know if you still have that in mind.